Good evening. It is 6:30 p.m. and I call to order the October 19th, 2021 Board of Trustees meeting. Do I hear a motion to enter executive session to consider employment recommendations for the 2021-2022 school year?
Madam Chair, I move that the board enter into executive session to consider employment recommendations for the 2021-2022 academic year.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. We will now, I believe, retire to the boardroom.
Hello, Lexington District 1 students, staff, and families. We decided to share a quick Where We Stand Wednesday following the release of new quarantine guidelines from DHEC. We hope this new guidance will result in fewer students being quarantined. That's great news because that means even more students will be in class and not have to miss face-to-face instruction. Starting immediately, students are no longer considered close contacts if they are wearing a mask while 3 or more feet away from an infected student, regardless of whether or not the positive student is masked. That means that the masked student who is 3 or more feet away would not have to quarantine. This new guidance does not apply to teachers or other adults in the school, but it's huge news for our students. Previously, both the student who tested positive as well as the close contact student had to be wearing a mask to prevent the quarantining of the close contact. Now, you're more in control over whether or not you will be quarantined. So I encourage our students to mask up, especially during this time of high spread. If students are masked, they will not only lower their risk of catching the virus, but also reduce the probability that they will have to quarantine and miss face-to-face instruction, or miss athletics, or miss the arts, or anything else that they're involved with at school. This is also a big help for our families because it will help prevent our parents and other family members from missing work to care for their quarantined students. As of Wednesday, October 13th, our district still has 82 positive student cases and 621 students who are quarantined. Our community numbers, though, continue to move in the right direction. My hope is that if students will mask up during this period of high spread, we can greatly reduce the number of quarantines in our schools under these new DHEC guidelines. If you have any questions, please reach out to your school nurse. Thank you for your time and have a great week as we move onward as one.
Sin embargo, con mucha fisioterapia y apoyo de mi familia. Gloria was born on the 1st of September in 1957, and she's from Havana, Cuba. She is a singer, actress, author.
Viví con mis dos hermanos y mis padres. He has different periods of art. He has a blue period, a red period, and a gray period.
We think it's important that they understand their classmates, since we have so many Spanish speakers in our school. You know, probably a good 10% of our population are from Spanish-speaking countries, and so we just feel it's important to celebrate that cultural diversity.
Pero mi papá dice que necesita ser un científico.
I like research projects and making projects like that, and learning more about Gloria Estefan was really fun. I didn't really know who she was before. I knew her song Conga, and then The Rhythm Is Gonna Get Ya, but I didn't know this was sung by her. I've liked learning about these people and all my friends' people.
It's really brought out, there's a lot of cool stuff in the culture of all these Hispanic people. They do so much, and we don't even realize it, but this is a good month to recognize it.
humble, to be kind. It is a giving of the peace in your mind to a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. Tell me what it is that you see, a world that's full of endless possibilities. And heroes don't look like they used to, they look like you do. Peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. We are how we treat each other and nothing more. We are how we treat each other.
My father is Mexican, so I am Hispanic American. He immigrated here in the 90s, but my mom was born here in the States, and so was I. She's white, and so our family is definitely a mixture, a collision almost of two different cultures. It gives you a different perspective on life growing up in a biracial home, because you get to see life from two different aspects as opposed to just one. And I would say that my family, my parents especially, are really the true example of the American dream. They both started from extreme poverty. My dad grew up with dirt floors, and they've made a life for themselves, and they've created a family, and that's really inspiring to me. It means a lot to me that I can represent my community here and help others. The Hispanic community is a very underrepresented minority, and we have a very large Hispanic presence here at Pillion High School. So I'm honored to be able to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. There's no divide. Everything is just family. My other white family doesn't see me any differently. And we've talked about it before that you almost forget that you're two different cultures because you're treated exactly the same as everyone else. And that's really beautiful to me.
Hello, Lexington District 1 students, staff, and families. We decided to share a quick Where We Stand Wednesday following the release of new quarantine guidelines from DHEC. We hope this new guidance will result in fewer students being quarantined. That's great news because that means even more students will be in class and not have to miss face-to-face instruction. Starting immediately, students are no longer considered close contacts if they are wearing a mask while 3 or more feet away from an infected student, regardless of whether or not the positive student is masked. That means that the masked student who is 3 or more feet away would not have to quarantine. This new guidance does not apply to teachers or other adults in the school, but it's huge news for our students. Previously, both the student who tested positive as well as the close contact student had to be wearing a mask to prevent the quarantining of the close contact. Now, you're more in control over whether or not you will be quarantined. So I encourage our students to mask up, especially during this time of high spread. If students are masked, they will not only lower their risk of catching the virus, but also reduce the probability that they will have to quarantine and miss face-to-face instruction, or miss athletics, or miss the arts, or anything else that they're involved with at school. This is also a big help for our families because it will help prevent our parents and other family members from missing work to care for their quarantined students. As of Wednesday, October 13th, our district still has 82 positive student cases and 621 students who are quarantined. Our community numbers, though, continue to move in the right direction. My hope is that if students will mask up during this period of high spread, we can greatly reduce the number of quarantines in our schools under these new DHEC guidelines. If you have any questions, please reach out to your school nurse. Thank you for your time and have a great week as we move onward as one.
Sin embargo, con mucha fisioterapia y apoyo de mi familia. Gloria was born on the 1st of September in 1957, and she's from Havana, Cuba. She is a singer, actress, author.
Viví con mis dos hermanos y mis padres. He has different periods of art. He has a blue period, a red period, and a gray period.
We think it's important that they understand their classmates, since we have so many Spanish speakers in our school. You know, probably a good 10% of our population are from Spanish-speaking countries, and so we just feel it's important to celebrate that cultural diversity.
Pero mi papá dice que necesita ser un científico.
I like research projects and making projects like that, and learning more about Gloria Estefan was really fun. I didn't really know who she was before. I knew her song Conga, and then The Rhythm Is Gonna Get Ya, but I didn't know this was sung by her. I've liked learning about these people and then all my friends' people.
It's really brought out, there's a lot of cool stuff in the culture of all these Hispanic people. They do so much and we don't even realize it, but this is a good month to recognize it.
Good evening. It is 7 o'clock. Do I hear a motion to conclude executive session and begin general session?
Madam Chair, I move that we close executive session and begin general session.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. All right. I call to order the general session of the October 19th meeting. The district is in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act by notifying the media of the date, time, and place of the meeting. The district tapes the meeting for accuracy in preparing the minutes. At this time, I yield the floor to Ms. Kathy Henson to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Madam Chair, I move that the board accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Board members, you have received the minutes of the September 7th, 21st, and 29th board meetings. Other than corrections that have been received and made, are there any other corrections? Hearing none, the minutes will be accepted as presented. Do I hear a motion to amend the minutes of the July 20, 2021 board meeting?
Yes, per policy BCBH that states minutes will include supporting materials where such information serves to clarify matters on which action is considered or taken, and because the approved minutes of the July 20th, 2021 board meeting reflect that Jada Garris's email to the board was included, I make a motion to amend the minutes of the July 20th, 2021 board meeting to include Jada Garris's email to the board as requested during the July 20th, 2021 meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Garris. Do I have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Guyton. All right. The floor is now open for discussion.
So I'll just give some background. So during the July 20th, 2021 meeting, in agenda item 9.9, I requested information from administration, and as part of that discussion, and in order to provide context to my request, I requested that the emails between the board, myself, and a staff member be included in the minutes. When the minutes were posted, I saw that the email between the board and myself was not included. So I asked to have an item placed on the agenda to amend the minutes to include my email to the board. The board's attorney was then asked to provide a legal opinion about my request to include my email to the board. The attorney's legal advice consisted of board policies about board member conduct and the relationship between the board and superintendent, but never once mentioned the policy regarding board minutes, nor was state law mentioned. And when you look at state law, it says minutes of public bodies shall include information that any member of the public body requests be included in the minutes. And our policy regarding board minutes echoes the law and even lists it as a provision. And several years back, Lexington Michelin Funds board had questions about what board members could include in the minutes, so they received legal advice from their attorney. And he said that we believe the South Carolina court would likely hold that the board's minutes must include only information requested by a board member relevant to the board's business and consistent with the general purpose and content of meeting minutes, but not documents irrelevant. So, and it said such information may include documents or prepared statements that are relevant to the board's business, which a board member requests be attached to the minutes. So I know the attorney has provided a redacted version of the email to the board. I would just ask the board to carefully consider redacting information from a public document that was provided to a member of the public through the Freedom of Information Act with no redactions, meaning there is no legal basis for information to be removed from this document. And other redacted parts of this document include information that is already included verbatim in the same minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Garris. Is there any other discussion or comment?
Yeah, as I've kind of looked at this process, and to me, this is more a question about process than it is about the actual email correspondence. I do have questions that quite frankly, I just, in my mind, I don't have answers for. While I read the same law that says, board members can request that any item be added to the minutes, it makes me wonder, what's identified as reasonable versus what's not reasonable. And at the same time, I have questions, for example, myself and I believe another board member were not present for that meeting. So can we vote, for example, on approving those minutes for something that we were not a part of? That would be a question. Certainly, Ms. Garris, I appreciate the viewpoint from the attorney at Lexington Richland 5. I would have the same opinion, I think, of South Carolina School Board Association's attorney and potentially the Office of the Attorney General, because to me this is a bigger question than just a solitary email. This is more of a question of process, and this is something we'll kind of hit on a little bit later, not to tell our hand a little bit, but as a part of the ad hoc committee, this has kind of been some of the questions that we have, more from a process perspective than the actual result. So I personally would move that we table this until we get some additional opinion for how we can proceed. I think that'll allow us some time to get an opinion from the Attorney General or the Office of the Attorney General. It'll allow us to get some time from the South Carolina School Board Association. So we've got future clarity on what we can have added to minutes in the future. I think that's a more reasonable way to operate.
Thank you, Dr. Guyton. Is there a second to the motion to table this?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Garris. And I agree with that because, as Ms. Garris stated, there is a very clear statement in FOIA law about minutes, but there are other laws and policies at play, and without some clearer guidance, I think it's murky for how to proceed on this. So I appreciate the suggestion that we slow down a little bit and get some more clear advice on this. So all in favor of tabling this?
One more comment, and I would add, again, from an operational perspective, I think the minutes should reflect what was discussed and the material that was presented. If we get into the business of attaching multiple emails to minutes, I'm not sure what that adds. It should be based upon the content of what was discussed and the material that was presented.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. All right, all in favor of tabling this, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to tabling it? All right, and this item has been tabled. Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to approve 4 certified recommendations for the 2021-2022 school year?
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve 4 certified recommendations for 2021-2022 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Do I have a second? Thank you, Dr. Powers. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve 1 administrative recommendation for the 2021-2022 school year?
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve 1 administrative recommendation for the 2021-2022 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Do I have a second?
Second. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Any discussion, board? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Do I hear a motion for the board to accept the newly hired support staff report as presented by administration?
Madam Chair, I move that the board accept this newly hired support staff report as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Henson. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? The motion carries. We're motoring along here. All right, we are at item 8.0, which is a special recognition. We have some special guests here this evening. At this time, I'm going to yield the floor to Mrs. Julie Washburn, who is the Lexington One Educational Foundation Executive Director, and she will explain why we have special guests here tonight.
If I would like to ask the chair of our Lexington One Educational Foundation to join me, Chris Rice, and then I'd also like Dr. Little, we're going to take a photo shortly, but to join us at the front, and then I'm going to also introduce our special guests who are here this evening. We're very fortunate to have a number of business leaders from Michelin North America with us this evening. If you would please join Dr. Little at the front when I call your name. We have the former Lexington Site Director of Michelin US 5 and US 7, Lisa Hayes. And Lisa also happens to be on our Educational Foundation board. That's why she's representing us in the mask this evening, and she's our Allocations Committee Chair. We have Facility Personnel Manager from US 5, Dan Brunsma. We have current Lexington Site Director for US 5 and US 7, Chris Guzmas. We have Michelin Earth Mover Tires Plant Manager from US 5 and US 7 and US 10, Jeff Chima. And then the Director of State, Local Government Affairs, and Community Relations, Will Whitley, with us. So we're going to recognize them in one moment. But we are extremely grateful for Michelin North America's continued generosity in supporting Lexington School District One through gifts to the Educational Foundation. Annually, Michelin funds the Michelin Golden Apple Teacher Grants each year through a gift to the Educational Foundation. And these grants provide funds to teachers for educational expenses in the classroom that may not be covered by the district budget. STEM kits are a high request every year, and classroom books that enhance the learning of the students in their classroom. So we appreciate that continued generosity. And our teachers get very excited as we send out the information about applications and award grants twice a year. But Michelin has also been involved with the district for so many years. They funded a STEM lab at Meadow Glen Elementary School in the past. They've sponsored numerous Educational Foundation events. They have also, up until recently, actually served as mentors at two of our elementary schools, Saxe-Gotha and Red Bank Elementary Schools. So they have been very involved in Lexington One for so many years, and we appreciate that continued relationship. Tonight, I wanted to share with you, the foundation actually partnered with Michelin, and they were awesome 3 years ago to invest in our robotics teams in the district with a gift of $30,000 that was spread over 3 years. And I'm very pleased and excited to announce that they will again give a $30,000 gift to invest in our VEX robotics teams in the district, which is a huge commitment from a corporation. So we're extremely grateful and appreciative to announce that relationship. I think this gift just shows how they want to see our students grow and prosper in our district. You know, their gift is directly influencing the academic areas that the robotics teams experiences give to our students who participate in these teams each year. But I'm going to let Chris Rice, who is our foundation board chair, say a few words as well to y'all this evening.
Thank you, Julie. And I'll make this brief. I know you're standing, so let me make this brief. On behalf of everybody with the Lexington One Educational Foundation, I just want to thank our local Michelin leaders for their continued support of Lexington District 1 through gifts to the foundation. Michelin's corporate leaders recognize that technology is rapidly changing and rapidly shaping our world every single day, and that the skills being taught to these students is invaluable in developing future engineers, coders, robotics technicians, and other employees that have marketable skills that will apply in the manufacturing industry. So note that the $10,000 donated this particular school year will support the district's 7 active VEX robotics teams, which are Lexington Technology Center and Lexington High School. Those are shared robotics teams. River Bluff High School, White Knoll High School, Beechwood Middle School, Lexington Middle School, Pleasant Hill Middle School, and White Knoll Middle School. Now, you all know my background is I'm an engineer, and I also work in the manufacturing industry. So being an engineer and working in those industries, I personally see the value of such an investment and how robotics teams provide vital skills to our participating students. So I just want to say thank you again to everyone here from Michelin, everybody who supports you from your corporation, for your most generous and continued support of Lexington One Educational Foundation, and more importantly, our kids in Lexington School District 1. Thank you again.
Lisa, did you want to say a few words? Come back here. Not that we can't bring the mic to you, but.
I'll just be very, very brief. You know, we just came off of 3 years, $30,000 investment for really seed money for robotics. And I recall when Dr. Little, Julie, and Chris and I were in the allocations committee meeting, and we started talking about robotics, and I said, gee, it's getting to the point where it's reading, writing, arithmetic, and robotics. That's the direction that everything is going. And it is truly an honor. It is with the commitment of Michelin to education and to our communities. We're so very, very proud to have the opportunity to make a further donation into the area of robotics. I know everybody rides on 4 wheels, or usually, maybe 2 wheels, but you know, that tire is unbelievably scientific. It is highly engineered, and it has to be so precise. And when we build that tire, I don't think you realize that the whole time that you're riding on it, you're getting that feeling of, am I getting good gas mileage? Is it braking well? Am I getting good tread life and things like that? All of that is getting more and more highly, the standards are going up every single year. We are investing in the education in our communities for the future, not only of Michelin, but of our communities as a whole. So thank you very much for this opportunity to come and speak to you all. Buy Michelin tires, and gotta throw that out there. It's a real pleasure to have served on the Education Foundation, especially the Allocations Committee as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Michelin team. We really appreciate your help and support and involvement with our students and the mentoring and the support for the robotics. I know the robotics program has really just been an amazing success throughout the district, and I just love that, you know, in our middle schools and high schools, that there's a place for every student, whether it's you know, football or cheer or art or chorus or robotics, archery. We just continue to really, you know, find ways to meet students where their interests are, and so I really appreciate that Michelin is involved in such a way. So thank you again.
Real quick before she leaves, I'd also like to thank Julie Washburn for her leadership in this. Has done a tremendous job in cultivating those relationships and building trust with these corporations, and thank you. So thank you very much, Julie.
All right, we are at item 9.0, which is citizens' participation. Lexington County School District One's Board of Trustees solicits the advice and counsel of its citizens. To encourage this participation, the board provides a citizens' participation period during board meetings. In order to speak, you must be the parent or legal guardian of a student currently attending a Lexington District 1 school, a taxpayer residing in the Lexington District 1 attendance area, an employee of the district, or a student currently attending a Lexington District 1 school. You may comment on agenda items, school operations, policies, programs, or other matters. You may not speak about specific individuals, whether students or staff. We want to remind you that this meeting is being live streamed and that the recording of this meeting will be part of the public record in perpetuity. We want to give everyone who came tonight an opportunity to speak, and in order to do that, I will call on each speaker by name and ask you to approach the lectern at the back of the room. The board will not reply to your remarks nor take any action during the board meeting in response to your comments or questions. You may address the board for up to 3 minutes. If you have any handouts you would like the board to review, please give them to Ms. Halliday at the back of the room and she will distribute them. Please do not clap or make any comments either while an individual speaks or after he or she finishes. As you came in tonight, you received a card to fill out if you indicated you wanted to speak. That card asks for your name, address, and other information. However, I will read only your name, the town you reside in, and the name of the schools your children attend when it is your turn to speak. Of course, if you are unable to attend the evening or are uncomfortable addressing the board in person, you may reach out to the board by email, telephone, mail, and our contact information is available on the Lexington One website. We welcome all messages. All right. First, we have Ms. Catherine Carter-Jeffcoat, and she lives in Lexington, and she is going to speak about the board.
The bond, sorry, my handwriting is awful. So 2 months ago, I emailed this board informing them of my interest in the bond referendum process. Based on the limited information provided to me by the district, I outlined in detail how it was practically impossible for the public to be fully informed on the projects and associated costs of the referendum. I had several questions, but only received a reply from one board member. I asked if anyone could provide me information about the scope of work done at each school that is funded through the bond referendum versus work completed at the schools through other funding sources. I asked for all the documentation that would show precisely what work our bond referendum funds were covering. Based on the information provided to you, the board, I asked how you could possibly know where there wasn't money remaining at some of our referendum projects before you voted to approve more bonds at the August meeting to fund facility needs. Again, no reply, even a confirmation of receipt for my email from 6 of you. Further, I asked why your policy FEBE was not being followed. Board members should be voting on construction specs, specific information like space requirements needed, layouts, mechanical features, equipment, budget factors. These are to be provided to the architect, but they haven't been provided to the board. When did this board decide, excuse me, I lost my place, that they are not involved in school construction? A few months ago, a board member specifically requested information for the bond referendum, but Chairwoman Green said the board shouldn't be involved in the construction. She listed the reasons, and during the discussion over the budget increase for the transportation facility, Ms. Green stated, quote, "We are not tasked with approving the specs, just the budget," end quote. This statement is not in line with policy. It's apparent that the board is satisfied with simply receiving a few photos during a monthly meeting and a one-page budget report for a $365 million bond referendum, which the budget report isn't presented during a board meeting and is not posted publicly from the district for the community to stay informed. Despite my repeated attempts for concrete information, I've been told that the district's building plan website is the way in which I am to stay up to date on the progress of the bond referendum. However, this site only provides anticipated start dates, no real documentation, one before and after photo for a number of projects at the school, and zero financial information. Completion dates are questionable at best. For example, the old Gilbert Elementary School selected demolition and repurposing date is posted as completed at summer of 2020 when the work at that site hasn't even begun. When I asked the district, they assured me that dates were correct. The district needs more oversight. The public deserves more transparency from the district with precise documents, actual documents, original documents, and budget breakdowns. Wherever public information is required, or is requested, I am told that I have to submit a Freedom of Information request. The district is not required to make members of the public submit FOIA requests for documents. Some districts and other state agencies provide the information when asked, and most times without delay or cost. When comparing referendum information provided by other districts, such as D5, for example, District 5, on their website, they include all documents related to their bond projects. I can download pay apps, contingency logs, change orders, subcontractor invoices, purchase orders. Free and easy original documents are easy to locate and can be accessed by the public at any time in other districts. Why not ours? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jeffcoat. Next, we have John Beatty. Mr. Beatty lives in Lexington and has a student that attends Deerfield.
Hello. Throughout the past year, we've used the taxpayer-funded lunch program in various ways. We've either been using an all-school lunch or a mix, depending on our daughter's, liking of it. We were informed this week that it was all or nothing in the line. So sometimes she'd bring a sandwich and get some fruit and veggies, and now you get all or nothing. Now, if she brings her own food, she can still get in the line and get all the food, and then I was told she can just throw away the rest. Not necessarily worried about the waste for just food reasons, but I guess I kind of am now that I've seen reports across the country of certain schools, not here, but could be here eventually, closing due to supply chain issues of food and whatnot. I mean, that and it's just taxpayer dollars, so I just wanted to bring it up, especially since it happened this week that I was told it came down from the USDA because that's where the funding comes from, but we all need money, we all need food. I really think there needs to be some sort of pushback against these insane regulations of, yeah, we're gonna give you money, but we're gonna force you to waste food or anything else. It's just wasteful. So I'm just asking the board, when things like this come down, they're brought to your attention, please do what needs to be done to push back to maximize taxpayer dollars and the effectiveness of our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beatty. Next, we have Ms. Debbie Hine. She lives in Lexington, has a student that attends Lexington High School, and wants to address the board about policies.
Like a recurring theme about things just not being used well at this district. Good evening. I believe the mass quarantine policies in this district need to be dealt with properly by having board policy. Students are being harmed and rights are being violated. The U.S. Supreme Court has affirmed that students have a right to an equal education. Our state constitution also says that the General Assembly will provide a system of public schools open, free public schools open to all children in the state. Last April, the governor signed into law the return to 5-day in-person instruction that says every district has to offer 5-day in-person instruction. And due to the need for ongoing high-quality instruction to address learning loss associated with COVID, districts are prohibited from dual modality instruction unless it is reasonable and necessary due to extreme and unavoidable circumstances. The district may argue a 14-day quarantine of a perfectly healthy student is fine per DHEC and CDC, but I point to the Constitution and state law, both of which trump these administrative agencies. We've asked the school about the constitutionality of not letting healthy kids go to school in person. The reply is that they follow guidelines from DHEC, forcing healthy students who have done nothing wrong to quarantine and learn from home, akin to learning from the hallway. Additionally, due process rights still exist, and the quarantined student has a right to know facts when the government is forcing him to stay home. We believe our student's due process rights were violated, and he was unable to validate why he was forced to stay home from school and athletic practice when he did nothing wrong. Where does the right to an education start for one student and end for another? Where is the equal protection of laws and the due process, as our U.S. Constitution clarifies in the 14th Amendment? Does it exist in this district? Where is the 5-day in-person classroom instruction? My kid kept careful track every single day of what he did and was allowed to participate in, and it's not pretty at all. This district recognizes state law prohibiting mandating masks this year, but how is it still missing the mark on something so basic and foundational to a student's success? Did you know the student handbook recognizes and upholds the right for students with communicable diseases to attend school in person? Did you know that? DHEC first published their guidelines for K-12 schools on July 29th this year. They've already updated it 5 times. The definition of a close contact just changed again last week. Why do we even follow this? Do the experts even know what they're doing? It's been a long time. Where are the studies to back this up? The only measurable results we have is our district average of a 10-point loss in scholastic scores, which Dr. Phillips said in a meeting recently could take up to 7 years to gain back. District 5 didn't fail like that. They've kept way fewer students home. Okay, when we went to our child's school, nothing in writing was provided. We went to the district, they gave us a DHEC website links to their guidance. We were told there's nothing in writing and it can vary between schools. The board has allowed a single, unelected person, the superintendent, to make these decisions. Okay, and again, we have a district drop of an average of 10 points in our testing, and the board has never set policy. We need to fix this. We've had over 7,000 students at one time home this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heim. All right, moving on to item 10.0, which is action items. Do I hear a motion to amend the 2021-2022 general fund budget to provide payment to certified employees for dual modality and other adjustments to delivery of instruction and payment to other employees for the added responsibilities related to COVID-19?
Madam Chair, I move that the board amend the 2021-2022 general fund budget to provide payment to certified employees for dual modality and other adjustments to deliver of instruction and payment to other employees for the added responsibilities related to COVID-19 in the following categories. Number one, $2,000 gross for full-time employees. Number two, $1,000 gross for part-time employees. Number three, $500 gross each semester for substitute employees that work 45 days in either semester. Categories 1 and 2 will be paid in 2 payments for all active employees as of November 15th, 2021, and as of May 15th, 2022. Category 3 will be paid at the end of each semester.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. All right, I believe Mr. Salters and Ms. Price are going to talk us through this.
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the board. Thank you for this consideration this evening. We talked about this as an information item last month, and we are bringing this for your consideration this evening. As you recall, during our 2021-22 budget process, we had 3 main priorities that the board came to, along with the administration and our schools. And the first of those was to reduce and maintain student-teacher ratios. We did provide a step increase for all staff. And then we really focused on some different and really innovative employee retention and recruitment strategies. And we believe that these payments play right into that third bullet there. I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Price for a minute to elaborate on that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Salters. We definitely want to make sure that we are recognizing the exceptionally hard work that our teachers and all of our staff members are doing during this time. And we do feel like this would be a great retention strategy for them to show them our appreciation for the work that they are doing. And, you know, it's not just their normal work day that is different. A lot of them are, you know, really stepping outside of their comfort zone. A secretary may be covering a class or, you know, lots of things that are happening. And so, you know, when they come back from covering the class, they still have their work to get done as a secretary. So they're working sometimes over and just going above and beyond. And I don't think you can really name a department or a position that's not kind of participating in that. And we certainly don't know what this spring holds for us. We hope that things are certainly on a better track. But we know that there is still a lot of hard work left, a lot of lift, a lot of work to make up. And people are working very hard to ensure that that ground that was lost is being made up. And that's in all areas, whether it's here at Central Services, teachers in the classroom, again, office staff, whatever the case may be. So we feel like it would just be a great sign to our employees to show them what amazing work they have done. And we know we'll continue to do in the spring to get us where we need to go. So we appreciate the thought of recognizing our employees in this way.
Thank you, Ms. Price. And just to kind of give you a general overview again of the payments, we're proposing dual modality payments for our certified employees and then payments for our other staff. So again, full-time employees, we get a $2,000 gross. That's before taxes are taken out or retirement. And then that payment will be split into 2 payments, one this fall and one in the spring. And then for part-time employees, those working under 30 hours a week, they would get $1,000 split into 2 payments. And our substitutes, we did this last year, and we would ask for a $500 payment for those that have worked 45 days in the semester. And just looking at kind of the timeline again, if the employee's active on November 15th, you know, they would receive the pay on the 12/10 payroll in these first 2 categories. Substitutes would receive their pay at the end of the first semester if they qualify, which would be the February 25th payroll, the next available payroll there. The additional spring payment would be made in May on the if they're on the it'd be made in June. If they're on the May 15th payroll, they would receive the pay June 9th, and then the substitutes would receive the pay on June 23rd if they qualified in the spring. So again, the original 21-22 general fund budget was $304,035,616. We estimate these payments to cost approximately $10.6 million, and so we would ask for an amendment to the budget, bringing the 21-22 budget up to $314,635,616. We would recommend this $10.6 million to be covered through the surplus that we had in this past budget year of about $12.5 million. The surplus was a result of a number of factors. One of those factors is some of our revenues in the local category came in a little bit higher than our budget. And then we had a number of expenditures that were budgeted in the general fund but paid for out of our ESSER 2 money and our CARES money, because obviously those didn't exist when we started that budgeting process. And so we were able to cover those expenditures. And then we budgeted our payroll. If you recall, this past year was the first time we had done this effort. Historically, it had been budgeted 100%. We budgeted at 98.5%. This past year, it actually came in at 96.5% of occupancy, roughly. And so that was a pretty good number to contribute to the surplus as well. So we'd recommend funding through that surplus, and be happy to answer any questions that any of the board members have.
So last year we were able to do the bonus for all of our employees, which was great. And so, Mr. Salters, you were saying like this is one of our goals was recruitment and retention. And then Ms. Price, you were talking about how this payment would be a great sign of the amazing work our teachers do. And I don't disagree with anything you guys are saying. Let me make sure I'm reading. Oh, wrong thing. Hang on, bear with me. I want to make sure. Oh, here we go. Okay. So I feel like this is two things combined in one, like dual modality and staff payments. But can you explain how those are the same thing? Because they seem a little different to me.
Well, they certainly are different things. We're paying for both things through this. And so dual modality, obviously you're familiar with that, teachers covering classes in quarantine. Ms. Gaskins gave a good synopsis of that at our last meeting.
Right.
And then when we have students on quarantine, we have staff on quarantine. Our other staff are also stepping up at the same time and pitching in, as Ms. Price just mentioned, doing other things. We have a cafeteria right now that has no food service staff. And I know one of our principals at that school was serving meals today. And so those are the types of things that are happening, and there are examples of that across the board. And so we obviously are looking at dual modality payment for teachers, but we're recommending, because of all the other extra things that our other staff are doing, to include them in a similar payment structure.
Okay, I really don't want it to come across that I don't think this is a good idea, because I really do think this is a good idea. But I feel like, I think I told you this example, or someone, our bus drivers, if they drive extra, they get paid for extra. And I think the State Department stated, if teachers are teaching through dual modality, they should be compensated for that. But then, I just feel like, I don't know, am I the only one that's feeling this way? That it's two separate things? I feel like, here, good job bonus, but here's compensation for your work.
I touched on that during the last meeting as well. that I kind of felt like giving everyone the same thing, although some have done more than others, and some have already been compensated for what they've done, as in, you know, the bus drivers, the hourly pay, those kind of employees. And I know, according to the state law, we have to provide payment for dual modality. So I know in some districts, they do a per diem based on if you taught kids and, you know, virtually and face-to-face that day. I don't really know what the solution is.
Right. I just want to make sure we're being fair.
So I know one of the things we talked about on our end was also just, to Kathy, to kind of your point about bus drivers. Certainly if they work over, they are compensated for that time. But just thinking about nobody's day looks the same anymore. So even though I am getting compensated for the extra time, my 8 hours that I'm on the clock looks very different than it ever did. So for example, a secretary like I used before that has to go cover for a class. So, you know, we're sending them off kind of into territory of, you know, things that maybe they're not as certified in, skilled in, that it's a new experience for them, but they're pitching in and kind of covering that. Their 8 hours is very different. Now, they may have to stay after 2 hours and they may be compensated for that to get their work done, but their work's really not done. You know, they're going above and beyond in a lot of different ways. I know Ms. Gaskins, to kind of speak to the different districts, I think she looked at several that were using some methods, and one of our concerns was how to track that, because it is...
Right, that's hard to quantify.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
want teachers to end up with more paperwork and less money. That was one of our biggest concerns.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, when you have an all-hands-on-deck situation like we've had, it is hard to keep track of even what you did during the day. I mean, I'm sure we have a lot of staff that they get home and they're like, what was that today? Because I started the day in my district office, you know, at my desk, and then serving lunches in Pelion, and then they needed help out, you know, I'm doing car line. So, I mean, I think it is hard to really track. I can't imagine what that would look like to try and track what 4,000 staff members are doing every day right now, because it would just be all over the place. And I understand your questions about the fairness, but I like where we've landed. That, I mean, to me, it's compensation, but it's also incentive. That, you know, thank you for doing this. This year is a quarter of the way through. We continue to need all hands on deck. We don't know what November's going to look like. We certainly don't know what January, February's going to look like, but we're committing to this now because we know you're going to be working your tails off for the next 7 months. And so this is our investment in all staff to say.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that this is a great thing. I think just quoting Ms. Price, it's a great sign of amazing work to them. I just wanted to make sure we're good with like the State Department that says we have to compensate teachers.
And I think
I
think that they attended a workshop or something where
We're following
these
all the
questions.
procedures for the State Department to adequately, you know, document dual modality with our teachers and compensate, should this go forward.
So I have a question about that. In state law, it says that the school district has provided to the State Department of Education the name of the teacher, the school, subject area, where they were hired to teach, and that has to be reported to the General Assembly. So how is that tracked every day?
We have a reporting system that we use, that we report, you know, this information to the State Department.
Okay, so can you currently track when a teacher teaches dual modality on any given day?
We can look at our attendance quarantine situation and get that information, because every time that a student goes into quarantine, the teacher is addressing the student's needs.
Okay.
And the benefit of this strategy, again, as we mentioned last time, some districts, you mentioned what are other districts doing. One district is pooling a few teachers after school, and those teachers are the only ones who are doing quarantine instruction. In this scenario, in our strategy, has been that your teacher interacts with your student. And so it keeps that connection with the classroom and the other students in the classroom, in an ideal scenario. So it's not, a random teacher after school from, 3 to 6 meeting with the students.
And I think it's very difficult to separate what our teachers are doing right now from for dual modality. So maybe the classroom teacher is using their lunch to talk with a quarantined student, and so that means the instructional assistant is covering lunch by them. So I think the ripple effect of because the teachers are doing an incredible lift right now, but they're not by themselves in the building. And so I think that when they are engaged in the dual modality that the General Assembly addressed, everybody in the building is supporting that effort to make sure that those students have time with their teacher.
And guys, big picture, the team's already under duress. If we want to splinter our school-based teams more, we do disparate pay. I mean, you have got to roll out a consistent bonus to all the team members. The principals are already stressed enough keeping the teams pulled together. If we don't do this in this unified fashion, it's just going to lead to conflict.
Oh, I agree with what you said about a bonus. Yeah.
Yeah, I would, I think to your point, Ms. Henson and Ms. Price and Mr. Salters, sometimes just the acknowledgement that we acknowledge that this is not a perfect scenario. And while there's any number of different ways to do this, we find this way to be, our lay of the land and kind of what we see in our schools and just the boots on the ground. And while it's not perfect, I think sometimes just acknowledging that is sometimes just comforting for someone who may feel unequally yoked, throughout this process. So, I think that would be the message to all of the staff at Lexington One is that, we're on the heels of a very tough haul. And so, I think this is just a fair and equitable way across the board.
I think it's a very important message that we send. It's not going to be fair to 100%. Life's not fair. But I think it's important that we send this message as a support, recognizing the tough times that they've been through. I mean, being a principal for 25 years, just having a normal day was a godsend. Because you come up on having a change, and you depended on your staff to do that. They didn't sign up for a bonus. They just did it because it was in their heart to do it. They had a servant heart. And we need to recognize that at this point in time with this pandemic and what everybody's been through. Thank you.
And I think I heard you right, Mr. Oswald. You said that the message is that Lexington One is the greatest place to work for all staff and teachers, hands down, period. Therefore, Ms. Price should never have another issue with filling up the,
even in a pandemic, it's the greatest place to
HR
work.
reports. Okay, I thought I heard that right. I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but I thought I heard that.
And I think to your point, Dr. Guyton, I think, people are watching those kinds of things as we look to recruitment and retention strategies. And we've certainly done several things this year that I think are great strides. Like you said, it's not perfect, and there's lots of things that we do that aren't perfect, but I think we extend that offer out there says a lot about our district.
All right, board, any other questions for Mr. Salters or Ms. Price or anyone? All right, Dr. Powers, would you read the motion one more time for us?
All right, Madam Chair, I move that the board amend the 21-22 general fund budget to provide payment to certified employees for dual modality and other adjustments to delivery of instruction and payment to other employees for the added responsibilities related to COVID-19 in the following categories. Number one, $2,000 gross for full-time employees. Number two, $1,000 gross for part-time employees. And number three, $500 gross each semester for substitute employees that work 45 days in either semester. Categories 1 and 2 will be paid in 2 payments for all active employees as of November 5th, 2021, and as of May 15th, 2022. Category 3 will be paid at the end of each semester.
Thank you very much, Dr. Powers. All right, board, you've heard the motion again. All in favor, please.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. I think he said November 5th, and it's actually November 15th.
November 15th, yes, sir.
November
Just
15th.
wanted to-
Thank you for the
Just want to
correction.
clarify.
Yep.
Thank you.
Would you repeat the whole thing
No,
again?
no,
I'm just
please.
kidding. All right, board, you've heard the motion, and it's been seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve 4 student travel requests?
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve the recommendation for 4 field trip requests. The field trip requests were reviewed and are in compliance with board policy.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. I'm going to let Ms. Gaskins talk us through this.
Thank you. As I shared last month, we are bringing trips forward for your consideration during this time of high spread, only when they are associated with an athletic, arts, or extracurricular organization where there is a competition or leadership training opportunity. So we are hopeful about a time when we can allow more field trips, but at this time, those are the ones that we're bringing forward for your consideration. And as you see tonight, all of the trips that we've asked for you to consider are in line with that.
Thank you, Mrs. Gaskins. Does anyone have a question? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. All right, this is item 10.3, the certification of delegates representing Lexington One at the SESBA Delegate Assembly in December. Last month, I asked the board to consider participation in the South Carolina School Boards Association Legislative Advocacy Conference and Delegate Assembly on December 4th and 5th. During the business meeting, delegates convened to make important decisions on behalf of governing boards and students in all 81 school districts in South Carolina. Tonight, we will vote on the district's Lexington One's voting delegates to represent Lexington One at the Delegate Assembly. Do I hear a motion that the board approve the following board members as designated official voting delegates at the South Carolina School Boards Association annual meeting on December 4th, 2021? These delegates will represent and vote on behalf of the Lexington School District One Board of Trustees.
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve the following board members as designated official voting delegates at the South Carolina School Boards Association annual meeting on December 4th, 2021. These delegates will represent and vote on behalf of the Lexington County School District 1 Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Do I have a second?
Well, when we say approve the following board members, are we supposed to say who we're approving, or are we going to talk about that?
Yes, please. Yes.
Anne Marie Green and Jada Garris.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Do I have a second? Thank you, Dr. Guyton. Is there any discussion? Is anyone else still interested in being a delegate? No? All right. And board, just as a point of information, you should have received in the mail this or email this week the link to the delegate handbook, and that will come before us in November, and we will approve that. And our delegates vote on behalf of the board. So when the board okays it, the delegates, all 9 of our votes are cast the same way at the delegate assembly because they represent the will of the board. So that's just something to keep in mind as we consider that next month. So we have a motion for Ms. Garris and myself to serve as delegates. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much. The ad hoc committee convened on October 5th, 2021 to review the proposed administrative rule to policy BBAA, board member authority and responsibilities. Do I hear a motion from the ad hoc committee?
Madam Chair, upon recommendation of the ad hoc committee, I move that this committee scope of work be expanded to include all board policies that reside in Section B, School Board Governance and Operations.
Thank you, Dr. Guyton. And as this motion comes from a committee, it does not need to be seconded. Is there any discussion? Do you understand what Dr. Guyton, kind of tell us what you're asking for?
Sure. So for some contextual understanding, as we began to look through the role of this ad hoc committee to review policy BBAA-R, it quickly peeled back a lot of layers, that there is a lot of overlap that exists between the B policies, quite frankly, in general. And so as we began to discuss and talk through this, quite frankly, expanding our scope to include all of the B policies while a very large task and labor is probably very much needed. We live in a very different world today than we did in 2016, 2017, when some of these policies were last codified, and we live in a much different world than when some of these were written back in 1985. So as we talked about, this would be probably the single greatest overhaul that we've seen in recent history, but needed. And we want to do it well. We want to do it with distinction, and we want to have time to do it. We estimate this would take on order of close to a year, anywhere between 6 months to a year to complete. We would roll out a timeline in which we would group policies together and bring those to the board. And I like the fact that this is very much board-driven, as it should be. This is essentially the behavior of the board, and really we seek to answer 3 questions: who we are, what we do, and how we do it. And in doing so, it's going to take time. And we would respectfully request that the board approve this.
Thank you, Dr. Guyton. Anyone have any questions about this? All right. We're going to vote to give this committee a lot more responsibility. You okay with that, Mr. Oswald? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Great. And I think it is much needed, so thank you for taking that on. All right, moving on to 11.0. The superintendent's update. Dr. Little, you're on before 8 o'clock.
That's very nice. Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll continue to move this along, but I do have some important things tonight I want to share with the board. First of all, I want to let the board and our community know that our COVID numbers continue to decline. This Monday, we had a year low of 52 active positive cases Monday morning. That number again is down from, I think, 711 or 713, which was our peak. So the numbers are gradually declining. What we see is every week the numbers, they'll start lower in the morning, they'll add in the afternoon, but then kind of the next day we lose that gain and sometimes a little bit more. And then it kind of goes that way throughout the week. We get to Friday and Saturday, then we lose. Then there's a bounce down, and then there's a correction Monday morning, and it starts the same process over again. We kind of had there was a last week. I think we started out with 82 and we had 82 the week before, but that was really an anomaly. The numbers have continued to trend down even as last week moved forward, and certainly then Monday morning. So that's tremendous news. The other great news that we have is that our community spread numbers are dropping as well. We've been tracking that very closely. I thank Mr. Caldwell and his team. Those numbers seem to drop, 3 to 5% sometimes during the course of a day. Now, 3 to 5% may not sound like a lot, but when you add that up over the course of 7 to 10 days or 2 weeks, that's really starting to chop into community spread. I think today's community spread, and I didn't put it in my notes today, was 345. So that is, remember, 200. Anything below 200 is moderate spread. So we are very, very close to moderate spread. We're getting there. And I think we peaked out somewhere about 1,700 is where the community spread was. So the fact that it's all the way back down. So that's fantastic news. I'm always going to celebrate that because moderate spread, we believe, continues to be right around the corner. It's a little slower than what we were hoping it would be here. We were kind of hoping it would already be here, but I'm not going to complain about continuous progress because really at this point we have no reason to believe it'll stop at 200. It's going to continue to drop. So that's fantastic news. As of 3:45 this afternoon, we had 7 schools with 0 positive cases, which was exciting. 23 schools with 2 or fewer cases. Now we're starting to get there. We're starting to turn the corner, which is pretty exciting. We believe, again, the trend will continue. And so really, as a result, we're not going to do a Where We Stand Wednesday this week because we kind of say we'll do it when we need it. Really, there's been breaking news like happened last week, and the COVID numbers are continuing to decline. So if that continues, we'll consolidate the Where We Stand Wednesdays. I know people will be disappointed about not getting the text message every Wednesday. So, but sometime in the future, we'll do another one. We still have currently 16 staff members who are positive, and that's down from our peak of 100 on any given day, like an active of one day. So we have 16 active cases, but really that number is a little misleading because half of those cases are what we would consider COVID long hauls. So we keep them in our count because it's important for us to know where they are and because their absences are still being felt on their campuses. But we still have 8 people who are out for really long COVID issues. And so what I would say is, while we're going to celebrate the fact that we really only have 8 new positive cases of our staff, I do want you to keep those staff members in your prayers who are still making that trek back and really still having a pretty tough time with just complications and kind of one thing on top of the next. So keep them in your mind, and your thoughts and your prayers. On Thursday, the 21st, we're also pleased to announce continued partnership with Lexington Medical Center. We are hosting a booster clinic for our employees because many of them are now eligible. We've had 400, the last count that I had was 474. So pretty good one day afternoon. Again, with so many options in the community, they can typically go kind of wherever they want to go. But so it's nice to have that many in one place. We'll do that over a 3-hour time period. So really a truncated afternoon, 4-hour time period. At the end of kind of that parent-teacher conference day. No way to celebrate your parent-teacher conference day like having a shot. So of the vaccine. And I didn't realize that clarification. Sorry about that. I realized that as I apologize. I didn't realize that.
I like the first.
Well, I'm sorry. That's certainly not my intent to say that. But they had, but 474, that threw me off a little bit. I'm sorry. 474 employees that have signed up for that. DHEC made a significant change last week, and it really is a huge help to our families, a huge help to our students. So now if a student is more than 3 feet away and wearing a mask from another positive student, that student is no longer considered a close contact. That is, when I say it's big news for families and not having students who need to be quarantined and those kinds of things is really awesome. We are seeing a decline in our quarantine numbers. I don't know if it's related to that or if it's just related to overall community spread dropping and the overall numbers dropping, but we are seeing a reduction in our quarantines, which is also good. I'll certainly leave the predictions to the experts, but it appears our immediate future looks rather normal, which is pretty exciting after kind of a year and a half of not normal. Again, I don't want to get into the prediction business when it comes to that, but it does look like the immediate future, at least, is going to look pretty normal. On a more somber note, well, let me add this, and then I want to finish with really a more serious issue tonight. With some of the negativity associated with the recent TikTok challenge, and you can imagine how up I am on TikTok, but with all the negativity associated with that and social media usage, we have a contact at the South Carolina Department of Education named Jim Deal, and he does an incredible presentation about social media awareness for parents and how to best support your kids when it comes to social media. And I think all of us who have children, I don't want to bring everybody in my boat, so let me just say it this way. I know with my children, we've really struggled with the idea of social media. It's caused some real anxiousness, anxiety at our house, and the notion that just social media, unfettered social media, is good for kids is really difficult to deal with. So he's going to come and he's going to meet with our parent advisory group about how parents can be more aware of that and how they can support their students. And what we're going to use it as, a preview for our Parent Advisory Council. The Parent Advisory Council will then go back to their schools and talk to their leadership teams at the schools. I mean, they're like PTOs or whatever it is, and see if that person can come and maybe they'll team up with some other schools and do some presentations with them at a future time. But I do want to invite the board to that. Ms. Halliday will send you that information. We are rescheduling it because he couldn't come on the Monday, so we're going to come on the Thursday. So we'll let you know. So our PAC is going to be there, and then and then they're going to they're going to preview it. If that's something that they're really interested in, then they're going to be able to take it back to their schools.
It'd be interesting if we could tape that to then help disseminate it as well.
Oh, I certainly could do that. Ms. McPhail, if we could talk to Ms. Halliday about that and see if that's okay with him. Maybe we could tape it, or we don't tape it anymore. We record it, I guess, and then do that. So finally, I've left the most serious for last, and I just want to share this with the board and our school community. But today at Carolina Springs Middle School, a young person made a really bad decision. And they came to school with a gun. And I'm addressing the issue tonight in my superintendent report, not because of the scary nature of what it means to bring a weapon to school, but more so because of how proud I am of the young people on that campus, that they recognized that there was a problem, and instead of sitting on the sidelines, instead of picking up their phones to record something, they took action. They walked into the principal's office and they said, there's a problem and we want you to know about it. I also am very thankful tonight for an administrative team and a staff of teachers and everybody else who have created a loving environment and a trusting environment where a young person can feel comfortable, safe, and empowered to make that decision. And so I'm thankful tonight for those students. I'm thankful tonight for the administration. I'm thankful tonight for the staff who have all of them working in concert to make our schools safe. I do want to reassure the Carolina Springs community and our community at large, and Ms. McPhail is working up a letter that's going to go out to I think everybody tonight. It's going to go out to everybody because we want to make sure everybody hears it, not rumors and innuendo on social media, as we just talked about the importance of social media. But we want to make sure that everybody gets the facts right, because I do want to be clear that so far in our investigation, there's no indication whatsoever that young person had any intent to harm anybody on that campus. I'll be very clear about that. If that fact changes, we will certainly update people on it, but our investigation so far, again, there's no indication that young person walked on that campus in order to injure anybody. So again, we are grateful for the students. We're grateful for the administration and grateful for the staff out at Carolina Springs Middle School. So that is and again, I apologize for having to end on such a somber note, but I think that was important to talk about and to share. Again, I'm very grateful for all that work. That concludes my report tonight, but I want to make sure, Mr. Warren, you're up next. And
Dr. Little, if I could for just a minute, the TikTok challenge where we were having the damage to the schools,
yes, sir.
Has that started to subside? How is that looking?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Dr. Clamp do that. So my understanding is, and he's nodding, my understanding is that really towards, as we started having conversations with young people who'd made that mistake, it started to alleviate and eliminate that. Vandalism on school campus, really there's no place for that. There's no place to damage the place that you go to grow and learn is, I believe, the ultimate sign of disrespect. And so our administrative teams have worked really hard at that. And I believe even some young people have been charged with that. But it's what we've seen is that has gone away. And to my knowledge, we've seen nobody with the October challenge that was about laying hands on a staff member. We've not seen that at all. And again, I just want to reassure everybody that if that happens, we will be prosecuting that experience to the fullest extent of the law as well. So thank you. All right, Mr. Warren.
Thank you, Dr. Little, Madam Chair, members of the board. Excited to be here tonight to provide another update to our capital projects program and talk through some projects we're actively working on right now. Obviously, our facilities team is hard at work bringing these projects to you in time, on time and within budget. These first few photos here are Lakeside Middle School. As you see from bird's eye view, you would think that school was complete outside of some site work and some asphalt, but they are getting very close. A contractor there, design firm is working very hard on that school. You see, looking here, orient you, this is from Old Cherokee, looking towards the school. You see a nice shot of where we are with that project. The culvert is in, and before long, you will see asphalt going over that. This will be the main drive coming into the school. You will ride right over that culvert to access the staff and student parking lot. The back of the school here, you see this will be the staff parking lot, and you saw this last time. Right now we have asphalt down. They've completed that work since the last time I brought an update to you. And also you see site work grading. Really all that's needed there is some grass and irrigation to bring that closer to completion. This is shot here right outside of the gym. You'll see the translucent paneling here. This is a cow wall product that we've used at Pillion Middle School and also at Beechwood Middle School. So it brings some natural light into the gymnasium there at Lakeside. Also, this is new from the last time I came to you. This is the loading dock area. You see the concrete is down, steps are in, railings in. Also, the bus canopy is in and completed. You see where the buses will pull in here and unload and pick up students in the afternoons and in the mornings. Courtyard area, once again, one of my favorite spaces and from these three schools, Beechwood, Pillion Middle, and Lakeside. You see the concrete is in, grading work is done there, irrigation is going in. Another shot of the Learning Commons space, all the windows looking out into the courtyard. One of the science labs, probably the best view at the school, much like it was at Pillion Middle and Beechwood. All the casework is in, countertops are in, obviously the VCT, the tile is in. You see the eye wash station right here to your left is installed in the science labs. Classroom space, ceilings are in, VCT is in, casework is in. Also want to bring some photos to you tonight of the Old Cherokee Road widening project that we are actively engaged in. If you've been down Old Cherokee in front of Lakeside, you've seen a lot of action going on there. And so we met with our contractors today, out there again on site, talking about upcoming deadlines and items to be completed. Curb and gutter is out there in front of the school as part of the road widening. White Knoll High School, I want to show you this real quick. I know you've seen the completed product, but this is the grass is coming in there nicely. If you've been by White Knoll High School, you'll see that seating is coming up, irrigation is in. So that site is stabilized and looking very nice, not only inside the building, but also from the road now that grass is coming up and looking very green. Overhead shot here of the Performing Arts Center at White Knoll High School. You see the roof is complete there. All the, vast majority of the storefront is in. This is the front of the Performing Arts Center. You see obviously all the brick is completed and canopy is out there being completed along with the storefront glass. This is the shot here of the lobby right out in front of the theater. Inside the theater, lots of progress being made at White Knoll High School with their theater. Very excited about how that's going to turn out. This actually is a photo of the repurposed auditorium. We repurposed their existing auditorium, and it's going to be classroom space there. And you see, actually, there's going to be a partition wall here, so they can use this space as multiple classrooms or one large meeting space, which is something the school was really interested in having during our design meetings and discussions. Moving on to Gilbert, you'll see, once again, lots of work happening out there. The fly loft going up for the Performing Arts Center is there. Overhead shot of all the block going up. Back here in the back, you see the weight room addition here, wrestling room addition here. This is the black box for the Gilbert High addition, and obviously the fly loft is here with the seating for the auditorium out there where my cursor is. Lake Murray Elementary School, putting some finishing touches on out there. One was their storage building. So you see here it's going up and about halfway completed. Carolina Springs Middle School, was out there today. They have a 6 classroom addition that is making some really strong progress. Block is up. There's also some steel up as of today. You don't see that in this photo, but it was up as of today, and before long there'll be some roof going up there for their 6 classroom addition. Dr. Cockfield is very excited about the additional space they're going to have there very soon. Building pad here for storage building, Carolina Springs Middle School. Gilbert Middle School, this is the visitor parking lot that's going in right out in front of Gilbert Middle School. It's been needed for a very long time. If you've ever been to Gilbert Middle, it can be challenging to find a place to park. So we are working very hard to correct that need for them. So you can see it taking shape for where you would go in or out, and then also the parking spaces out in front of the school.
How many spots will that be?
32, I believe is the number. Overhead shot here of that same work we just discussed. This is another view of it, along with the retainage pond there as part of the project. As always, you can track our progress on the building plan website. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. This is Jada. When is the road work expected to be completed for Lakeside Middle?
Shooting for this summer. It's going to be completed before the school is open. That has to be done for the school to open. So that's our target date.
Okay. And what about White Knoll Middle School's PAC? When is that expected to be completed?
White Knoll High School?
Yeah, sorry, White Knoll High School. Yeah.
We're looking at a February, March completion date.
Okay. And I know White Knoll High School had some changes to their weight room. Was that in the original referendum?
That was not in the original referendum.
Okay, so what was done with that?
We took 3 classrooms, and White Knoll High School is the between Lexington, River Bluff, and they were the only ones that still had the smallest of the weight rooms. So we provided them some extra space to give them more room, much like the other. And then obviously Pillion and Gilbert had their weight rooms recently done, and Gilbert's having theirs done right now. So they were the only school that hasn't had their weight room touched at all, in years.
And there's some additional athletic training space provided through that as well. That was not, if you walk in their training room versus Lexington, River Bluff, high schools of that size, it really just wasn't functional for them with the number of athletes they see.
So how much is that going to cost?
We can get you that number.
Okay. Thank you.
What's
Any
a fly
questions?
loft?
Sir?
What's a fly loft?
Oh, it's the back of the theater. If you're on the stage looking up, all the rigging and curtains and all the things coming down, there's a space there that you have to have for that system to work.
Gotcha. I like Phantom of the Opera, I just don't know how it works.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
People in the business call it the fly.
That's
Yeah.
I'm learning.
It's
I'm
so the
learning.
scenes can fly, literally fly up and fly down. You can change scenes. If you've ever been to a performance in a theater, the scenes will go up and away.
Scenes, not people.
And,
But
correct.
you can,
Well,
like, if-
maybe people too, but in
If
our
you want
case,
to
it'll
be
be
Peter
scenes.
Pan, you can come and swoop down and you'll be on the trapeze or whatever, yeah. All those things are up in there,
Good to know.
yeah.
Good to know.
Other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Warren.
Thank you.
Nicely done. Now I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Gaskins, who's going to talk a little bit about credit recovery. We're going to introduce, again, this is not for action. We're just introducing this tonight to give you an opportunity to take a look at it. We'll actually do the official first reading next month.
We will, thank you. So we have studied the credit recovery policy against the uniform grading policy adopted by the State Board of Education, and also studied the model policy to understand revisions that need to be made. And so it's now not just the credit recovery policy, but the content and credit recovery policy. So content recovery is when a subset of a course needs to be recovered, maybe a unit or a series of units, versus credit recovery, where a student failed the full course and needs to recover that credit. So you can see some changes there in the policy to add content recovery, and then also the changes with student athletes and their eligibility with the NCAA, which we include in our application so that our students understand when they take a credit recovery class what the implications could be for that. With the administrative rule, you will also see some changes to acknowledge, especially with credit recovery, the implications for a student's GPA. With our current policy, the student would not be impacted by that course that they failed. But now with the new uniform grading policy and the changes we're asking you to consider, that original course grade would stand, but the student would still get the credit. So it would impact the student's GPA. We are still exploring some additional revisions related to the content recovery aspect of the administrative rule. Dr. Clamp wanted to meet with a few more groups of stakeholders to get some feedback on that aspect. And so before we go to first reading, we're going to be sharing some additional notes with you for the administrative rule related to content recovery. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And again, we'll bring this to you next month for first reading.
What's the difference in content recovery and the current retake policy we have in the district where students can retake like a summative and earn full credit for one and then up to like 80% for the other?
That's a great question, because our grading practices are certainly aligned to content recovery. It just isn't in policy currently.
So what we're currently doing will be added to policy, will basically now be policy.
Our current practice would then be aligned, yes, with the
Okay.
policy. Yes, great question. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now, finishing us off tonight with some very important information with for a number of our families, especially those with seniors, as we begin to, I know it's only the end of the first 9 weeks, but we always want to keep our eye on the prize and look at graduation and what that's going to look like for us. So, Dr. Clamp, welcome back and take it away.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Little, this is an exciting presentation as we bring forward to you recommendations about our graduation and commencement exercises for 2022. We're excited to bring this to you tonight and really excited about celebrating with seniors and their families and our faculties and staff as we conclude this school year. Just to give you a few reminders, calendar reminders here remind us of what our responsibilities are in closing out this school year and how the dates for graduation align with some of this information. As you see before you on the slide, at the conclusion of this school year within our calendar, you'll see a Memorial Day holiday. If we need to set up days for our high school, you will see that information there as well. June 1st and 2nd conclude the days for students, and the 190th day for teachers is on June the 3rd. The next slide for you presents our Plan A option. We have reached out to our vendor, Colonial Life Arena, and dates for Lexington One have been secured, and the times and recommendations for our graduations are presented to you on this slide. You may remember that each year, school districts in the area will connect with the Colonial Life Arena to request dates and times for their graduations. The Colonial Life Arena team then decides which school district gets which days. So we always send forward a first, second, and third choice. This was prior to my position here as a secondary schools director. These two dates were the ones that were presented to Lexington One for us to choose then the arrangement of our schools for their graduation and commencement exercises. So you'll see before you Saturday, June 4th, graduations for River Bluff, Lexington, and Gilbert beginning at 8 a.m., then to 12 p.m. and 4 p.m., and then on Sunday, White Knoll High School at 12 p.m. and Pillion High School at 4 p.m. Just a point of information on that Sunday, the White Knoll High School graduation would be the first commencement that particular day. There would be no graduation of another school or school district before that, which would allow us to remain with any materials we may have already set up with floral or other vendors that may be providing us support for that day from the Saturday's commencement into the Sunday's commencement. We do want to share with you that we have considered Plan B should there be any restrictions to capacity at the Colonial Life Arena. I'll go back to this slide just to say that we do hope that the Colonial Life Arena's restrictions for capacities are lifted so that all of the guests that would like to attend and support our graduates and their families are able to attend in their entirety. Should we need to consider an in-person graduation on our school's campuses, we have done this before with success, and it is an option. We wanted to just share this with you, knowing that our first option is to have these graduations occur in the Colonial Life Arena for our families and our students. We have distributed the dates here as you see so that we would then be moving and transitioning equipment from school to school if we solicit for vendors to help us with that. Gilbert High School's graduation would begin then Wednesday, June 4th. If you remember back on the previous slide about dates in our calendar, that would be a date that is still being, that is still a part of our school's calendar. Then Thursday for Pillion, Friday for River Bluff, Lexington High School Saturday, and then White Knoll High School that Sunday. I would pause now to see if you had any questions or if I could further clarify any of the details from this report.
This is Jada. Has there ever been any thought given to possibly surveying parents to see if they're interested in Plan A or Plan B and making a decision based on that?
Soliciting stakeholder feedback?
Yes, sir. Students, parents, yes, sir. Teachers, I mean, everybody.
Well, it's interesting. We get feedback all the time, some solicited, some unsolicited. For this particular request, we haven't specifically asked of the body, but we do want to provide both options, specifically that first option, because the inside capacity and the inside experience does not prohibit weather doesn't prohibit that event from happening. We can have that inside with the safety and security of that event space. But we could certainly solicit and suggest opportunities for people to give us feedback on that. We certainly could.
Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all getting this out so early as well. I know last year people started asking, every year they started asking really early, so I'm glad that this information is available. Thank you.
Nicely done, Dr. Clam. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Madam Chair, that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Dr. Little. Moving on to agenda item 12.0, items for board information. Board, you have received the following reports: the monthly general fund financial report, the monthly general fund budget transfers, monthly capital projects report, and the monthly unauthorized procurements report. All of those are for the month of September. A couple of items just to mention. Ms. Henson and I last week attended the School Board Association's Beyond the Basics training, and it was on civility and professional ethics. And it was so good that you will all see that at your desk is a copy of the packet, the materials that they provided. I'm going to ask Ms. Henson just on the spot to give one takeaway from that day. Can you? It was a great great training. Do you have anything?
Yes. Okay, so we talked a lot about effective communication and how communication isn't just speaking, but it's also listening and being respectful. And so I think that was a good.
It was really among the top trainings that I have participated in since I've been on the board. And about 2 hours into and the facilitator, the presenter was excellent. I mean,
And
really,
we were all engaged.
it was
and
very,
wasn't just,
lots of table projects and lots of work with the other boards. And that's always interesting because we were, Ms. Henson and I were with a board member from Horry County and a board member from Florence 4, very different sized districts. And it's always extremely beneficial to network with different districts. But the presenter was just outstanding. And I made the connection about 2 hours in that she actually is the one that's going to be contracted by the School Board Association to conduct our board self-assessment in January. So I'm super excited about that because she is phenomenal. And I think that that is going to be a really instructive and constructive time for us in January when she facilitates that. I did want to mention that October is National Principals Month. And on behalf of the board, I would like to take a moment to recognize all of our principals for their outstanding work, your time and dedication to your staff, student, and families. I know it is, being a school principal is a 24/7 job. And we just, our schools are great because they have incredible leaders at the helm. And so a big thank you to all of our principals. I know it's all, you just never know what's going to happen on any given day in a school. And, they're flexible and positive and organized and really just doing an outstanding job. And with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. All in favor? Go home. It's 8:30. Way to go.